TiEcon, which is now the world's biggest entrepreneurs conference, began in 1994.
No office, no telephone, no bank account. We were planning a huge conference.
This was the first time all the successful entrepreneurs from the South Asian community came together and talked about their own paths to success. It was electric.
And that actually was the real birth of TiE.
And now look what TiEcon has blossomed into. A 3,000 people conference, 300 volunteering, 200 plus speakers.
We have attracted the most exciting names as keynote speakers in TiEcon throughout.
TiEcon is about connecting people. You get to meet fellow entrepreneurs, you get to meet investors, you get to meet your prospects.
TiEcon is a huge educational platform, educating its audiences in future trends. In the first TiEcon held in 1994, we were discussing a new trend called the internet.
One can say coming to TiEcon is like getting a mini MBA in entrepreneurship.
We have a single mission: to foster entrepreneurship, to create an organization where aspiring entrepreneurs can have boundless opportunities.
Providing you mentorship, networking, education, funding, and an ecosystem in which you can grow.
With value creation in the billions. TiEcon is the mecca of entrepreneurship.
The future is exceedingly bright.
Let the boundless opportunities
Let the boundless opportunities
Let the boundless opportunities unfold.
What will you do?
What will you do?
What will you do to change the world?
welcome.
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 Welcome to TiEcon 2013.
Hi, I'm Bharat Ram, Chair for Sponsorships and Board Member at TiE. On behalf of the Board of Directors and the TiE leadership team, I'd like to thank our sponsors for their support and generosity. TiE has been remarkably successful thanks to its 23 annual sponsors and 19 TiEcon sponsors who've been returning year after year and providing us with their support. I would once again like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all our sponsors. Thank you.
Let's give them a big hand. Hey, you guys were supposed to lip sync.
You didn't tell us that, did you?
Oh, okay. Maybe for the next time. So thanks to both of you and your effort, and thanks all the sponsors. Thank you.
Thanks again, sponsors.
Thanks, really appreciate it.
So how many people attended Mentor Connect today? Hopefully it was good for all of you. And people who have not had a chance to attend today and already pre-registered will get a chance tomorrow as well. Let me invite the two people that have been responsible for making Mentor Connect happen. So Deepak Bhagat and Prakash, before they come on stage, we're going to play their video.
Hi, my name is Prakash Narayan, and at TiE, I'm responsible for the systems group. In India, the masses go to Kumbh Mela to get a dip in the holy Ganges to get enlightened. On May 17th and 18th, the masses will be descending at the Santa Clara Convention Center to be enlightened by the immense brain power that will be available there. I'm here to talk about Mentor Connect. Mentor Connect goes back to the roots of TiE. When TiE was founded, the objective was to foster entrepreneurs by providing a mentoring environment for young up and coming entrepreneurs. In the beginning, it was possible to do this in an unstructured environment by having all the people get together in a room. As TiE has grown far and wide and its reach has grown to the entire globe, it's no longer possible to have an unstructured environment where entrepreneurs can meet with a mentor of their choice. The needs of the entrepreneurs are different. Some of them are looking for forming a company, some of them are looking for help in business development, some of them are looking for growing the company. Given this, what we've done at TiEcon and TiE Silicon Valley is partner with a platform provider called Mentor Cloud. And this is exactly what we'll be doing at TiEcon. Good luck. Thank you.
I'm Deepak Bhagat and I'm on the board of TiE Silicon Valley chapter. I would like to talk about the Mentor Connect program for this year. Based on the feedback that you provided last year, we have added 3 new capabilities this year. The first one is that you have an option to select your own mentor. The second one is that you can have an ongoing relationship with your mentor even after the TiEcon is over. And the third one is that you have a quality time when you attend a mentorship program. First 2 objectives are achieved by having you access to a platform that we call it as a Mentor Cloud program, where you can go and select your own mentors based on your own particular needs. And then you can use this platform on an ongoing basis to establish an ongoing relationship with your mentor. And the third change that we have made is that instead of having 8 mentees per mentor, this year we are going to have only 4 mentees per mentor so that you can have a quality time here. So enjoy your Mentor Connect program and thank you.
Let's give a big hand to these 2 guys who've been doing a great effort here. Thank you. Okay, now for the last keynote of the evening. Before I invite the keynote, let me just talk about why we chose this keynote, because we had some executives of all these companies, and we talked about big data, mobility, and other things. So we wanted to bring you something which is a little different, something which is talking about the future in a different way. And so I heard this speech from Chris at NPR, and I was blown away. When he talked about how manufacturing is changing, how things are going to evolve, I decided at that time we have to get him here as a keynote speaker. So then we approached him, and obviously many of you probably know him as the editor of Wired magazine. He was the editor of Wired magazine before he took over this new job. He's going to talk to you about that. And as you can see, he already has some gizmos on the table, so he'll tell you what this is all about. And he has written many books that many of you might have read, Free, Long Tail, and you name it. And then we were trying to figure out who would be the best person to moderate this whole session. And he suggested Vivek Paul, who is someone who has been associated with TiE, but a gentleman whose resume is like he's worked at every big company you can think of, Wipro, GE. You talk about a startup, he has done a startup. You think about him being an investor, he has been an investor, and now he's a professor as well. So with that, let me welcome both Chris and Vivek Paul to the stage.
So the way we're going to do this next 25 minutes or so is, while this baby does its thing, I'll explain what it is and what it's doing in a minute, is I'm going to give you kind of a quick sort of 10-minute overview of what I call the new industrial revolution, which I think is kind of a big deal. Such a big deal that I wrote a book on it, Makers, and I quit my job to live it with my new company. And this weekend, as many of you may know, is Maker Faire. Let me quick show of hands. How many people here are going to Maker Faire? Yes, good. Those of you who aren't going to Maker Faire at San Mateo Saturday and Sunday, it is mind-blowing. It is basically 120,000 people. The Bay Area's garages and workshops and basements empty out, and you see all the amazing things that people have been working on. Some of them are just hobbies. Some of them will become companies. Some of them are revolutionary. But the point is that it's bottoms up. It's coming from the grassroots, and the reason it's coming from the grassroots is because for the first time in history, regular people have powerful tools, powerful desktop manufacturing tools within reach. It's cheap, it's easy, it's accessible, and as we've seen time and time again, putting powerful tools in the hands of regular people changes the world. It's not about the technology, it's about who uses it. So really quickly, just for powering through this, the subtitle of my book is The New Industrial Revolution. I would say it's the third industrial revolution. The first started 1776 in England. It was the mechanical revolution. It was replacing muscle power with machine power. And it started with taking the spinning loom from medieval times and simply multiple sort of parallel processing it. This is called the spinning jenny, and what it just did is it spun multiple threads at the same time. One person could make many things. It was foot treadle powered, and then ultimately it became water powered and steam powered, and that became the first industrial revolution. That created modernity in many ways, replacing muscle power with machine power. The second industrial revolution was the computer, but not the computer itself. Instead, the democratization of the computer, putting computers in the hands of everybody. And this replaced brain power with machine power. And it's not about the technology. Instead, it's about who's using it. And I want to sort of give you this particular historical analogy, which I'll come back to in a second, to kind of make clear what was so powerful about this second industrial revolution. This thing on the left is some of you may recognize it. It was the Apple LaserWriter from 1986. It cost about $6,000. It was the first consumer-grade laser printer. And what it created was the concept of desktop publishing, which is, does not seem like a big deal today. But at the time, remember, publishing required a factory, a printing plant, typesetting, unions, typesetting skills. It was hard to do. And then they put the word Apple and the LaserWriter and the software and the Mac, put the word desktop in front of an industrial act, desktop publishing. And this became something anybody could do. And we made a mess of pages, a dog's breakfast of fonts, but we got better at it quickly. And we were liberated to experiment. And publishing became something anybody could do. But it wasn't really publishing. You were only going to make a few of something. Nobody was going to compete with the New York Times with their laser printer. And then we came up with the second essential invention, which was the web. And the web, if the laser printer and the Mac and desktop publishing democratized the tools of creation, the web democratized the tools of distribution. And now, publish became a button in your browser. And every one of you has clicked a button that says publish, and when you did so, you probably didn't think, wow, 40 years ago, this was a factory. 40 years ago, this required printing presses to roll. 40 years ago, this required huge companies. And today, I could reach 8 billion people with a press of a button for free in my browser. So that's changed the world. That's created the modern web, simply taking publishing and broadcasting and all the other media arts and turning it into something anybody could do. And so now we have the third industrial revolution, which is just the combination of the first two. It combines the mechanical with the digital. It's digital manufacturing. But it's not about the factories, which have been doing this for some decades now. It's once again about the democratization of digital manufacturing. What you're looking at right here is a 3D printer. It's a very old 3D printer that my children use to make dollhouse furniture. This is like the origins of this. It's a MakerBot. And today it looks more like this here we see on the left, the Replicator 2, which is the most recent one. This one was a kit and was a little hard to use. Now it's like a microwave oven. You just plug it in, push a button, and prints. And what it's creating right now, I think it's creating right now. By the time we're done, most of Yoda's head will be created. It's laying down layers of plastic in a very sort of fine levels, and going to create an object. And what's cool about it is you can you can create almost anything, any shape. Complexity is free. You download design files from the internet and off they go. And my children, as I say, download dollhouse furniture designs from the internet and make toys. Why not? But that's not manufacturing. This is not going to compete with the toy industry of the world. It may compete with my children. They're not going to buy from Walmart anymore. They're going to make their own, but it's only going to create one of something. And as you'll see, it's pretty slow. How does this become an industrial revolution? And the answer is, in the same way that we needed the web to democratize distribution, we need what's called cloud manufacturing to get you from one to many, from prototype to mass production. And the necessary second step has now arrived, which is the world's factories they're also digital. They're on the web, and they'll serve anybody. Alibaba is the site I've listed here, but there are others, mfg.com and beyond, that basically allow you to take that file that you downloaded or you created and you prototyped on your desktop and send that same file to the cloud and have it made in any volume. In the same way that you can, for example, take a digital photo that you took and print out one copy on your desktop or send it up to some service to be turned into a book, you can do the same thing with physical stuff. And this means that for the first time in history, everybody has access to factories. I send stuff to China to be made all the time. They take PayPal. I can get robots in China to work for me, and they take PayPal. That's as transformative in its own way as the web was in media. So this is the big deal, which is that we've seen this picture before. We've seen what happens when we create a new innovation model that's open and community and collaborative and mass amateurism and bottoms up. It's called the web. Changed the world. That innovation model has been limited to bits, to digital stuff, information, content on screens. We now have the ability, and you'll see if you go to Maker Faire, and I really would recommend, especially if you have kids, take them to Maker Faire this weekend. What you'll see is that that web innovation model, that culture of collaboration now brought to atoms, to making physical stuff. And manufacturing is one of the biggest industries in the world. If you thought the web was great, you're going to love the maker movement. And that's an industry ripe for transformation. It's not just that things will be made more efficiently in entrepreneurship and startups, but that a different class of products will be made. In the same way that YouTube is not like Hollywood, but is its own a class of content that would not have been created by Hollywood, so the maker movement is making a class of content, a class of product that's not going to be done by mass manufacturing. These are the markets of 10,000. 10,000 is like this really interesting number. 10,000 is too big for a person and too small for mass production. There's all sorts of products out there that want to be made in 10,000s that aren't being made today because the 20th century manufacturing model doesn't have room for it. I'm wearing a Pebble smartwatch on my arm. How many people here have heard of the Pebble smartwatch? Good. Okay, Kickstarter project, most successful in history, $10 million. On the same day the Pebble smartwatch was released on Kickstarter, Sony released their smartwatch. How many people have heard of the Sony smartwatch? 2. All right, that's the most I've ever encountered in any audience. 3. Okay, so it was about 30 Pebble smartwatch, 3 Sony smartwatch. 4 kids, Pebble smartwatch, 4 kids in Palo Alto, put it on Kickstarter, kicked Sony's ass, right? That's really interesting. When you see that, you start to feel like, oh, I've seen this picture before. That's like the web, right? That's when amateurs can compete with professionals, when startups can compete with some of the biggest companies in the world. And now a smartwatch is a new category. It's a hot category. There's rumors that Apple's going to release a smartwatch. And it happened because the maker movement allowed regular people, 4 kids in Palo Alto, to not only prototype sophisticated electronics, but put it into mass production by going through this increasingly open global supply chain. So I just want to end with just one quick slide. In the same way that desktop publishing was a lot about the software, with the maker movement, you've got CAD, computer-aided design. And CAD used to be like Autodesk, and it was super hard, $6,000 a seat. Really, I had to go to school to learn to use it. Now my kids do it for fun. If your kids have played Minecraft, it's CAD. They don't know it, but it's CAD. And you can download, if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you can download 123D Design for free, and you can be designing something before this talk is over. What's interesting about this one, this is my first effort at designing something. It was an enclosure for a sprinkler. And what's cool about it is on the right, in your word processor, when you go to the file menu, there's this item that says print. And when you press that print button, this kind of amazing thing happens. These pixels on screen turns into ink on paper. Now, okay, I know that's not so amazing, but it's kind of awesome. In the background, there's all sorts of, rasters turn into vectors and PostScript and, all that stuff. Anyway, you've seen that. But on these CAD programs, they don't have print, they have make. And when you press that button on a free software, it walks you through this wizard, which sort of says, what would you like to make? You know, do you want to do it in 2D or 3D? What kind of materials? Do you want to do it locally on your desktop or send it to a service? You know, if you're sending it to a service, you know, like Shapeways, to be made in titanium or stainless steel, here's some ways to minimize the materials, to lower the cost. And these tools are getting better and better and better at taking all those skills and expertise that were once the sole domain of manufacturing companies and turning them into a software wizard. That's like when publish turned into a button in the browser and it changed the world. Now manufacture is turning into a button in the browser. And we saw what happened to media and content and culture when regular people could press that button. Now we're going to see what happens to physical stuff. So that means we're all designers now. You know, your children will soon have 3D printers. If they don't already, will have 3D printers in their classroom. They are going to learn digital design. They are going to be the product designers of tomorrow, and they're going to be that not because they got a degree in industrial design, but because they could just do it. Anything they imagine, they can make real. My children grow up with a 3D printer. It's going to change their life in some way, one way or another, and your children will as well when they get these in their schools. And that's happening as we speak. So as I said, my girls make dollhouse furniture. They love The Sims. We don't let them play video games very long, so they say, well, can we make our own dollhouse? And we said, yes, download furniture from the internet and print it out and then paint it. And what you see there is a fundamental change in a child's relationship with plastic. But more to the point is the fundamental change is they've gone from consumer to creator. All they did is they downloaded a file from the internet, they dragged a slider to scale it so it's just right for their dollhouse, and then they painted it. But they love it. And it doesn't even go in the dollhouse, it goes on their windowsill, because they're so proud of what they made. They're not going, if you're a toy company, they should fill you with terror. They're not going to Walmart and buying mass-produced stuff anymore because they don't have to. They go onto the internet, they shop for designs, and then they print them. That design there got there because this woman gave them away. This woman is not a toy designer. She's a Broadway set designer. And it just so happens that she uses 3D CAD and 3D printers to do set designs. And when she's done, she doesn't just lock them away. She puts them on the internet because that's what the web generation does. And she puts them on the internet as just designs. My children download them as dollhouse furniture. And you've seen this picture before. That's the web's innovation model, a default towards share, a default towards collaborate, a default towards giving things away. My boys, meanwhile, do Warhammer 40K figures. This is what 9-year-olds do. Toby, one of my sons, watched the movie WALL-E and decided to create Toby, his little robot avatar. And this is what 9-year-olds do on iPads. And then we print them out, and then we paint them. And that's kids. That's what kids can do today. Imagine what they'll be doing tomorrow when they grow up. So my last slide. Apple, 10 years ago, and when Apple released the iPod, the motto was rip, mix, burn. Change the music industry. The idea that regular people were empowered to take commercial products and make them their own. Now Autodesk's slogan and others in this space is rip, mod, make. What does it mean to rip reality? And the answer is reality capture, 3D scanning. The next exercise you have, will cost you nothing. If you have an iPad or an iOS, download an app called 123D Catch. It's free from Autodesk. And it will turn your phone into a 3D scanner, and you just go, as you see up here in the picture, you go around an object with a camera, click, those pictures get uploaded to the cloud, turn into a polygonal mesh. You can then modify the mesh as follows. You can then download the mesh, put in your other free software, 123D Design, and there's others, some of them web-based. You can then change it any way you want and set it to the 3D printers I'm doing now and create a Pez dispenser of your head or anything else. But the point is, you have a photocopier in your pocket. You have a device in your pocket that can photocopy reality, can photocopy things. You can now make copies of stuff, anything, at least the exterior shape of it, for free using a device that's already in your pocket. And that's just the beginning. So that's, I think, ultimately going to end up in an industrial revolution. You saw the personal computer, you saw the web. This is bigger yet. It's democratizing the tools of the biggest industry in the world. There you go.
Chris, we've known each other for over a decade, and over that time, I've seen you come up with great intellectual ideas. You wrote The Long Tail and Free and then Makers. And there's part of me, and I'm sure part of everybody here, that's wondering, is this just a concept? Or is this real? Can this really be billions of dollars? Is there really that latent demand, the range of applications? There's only so many baubles and toys that the world wants.
Yeah. So that is the big question. It's the scaling question. I would say that, were it not for the fact that we did it once with a personal computer. Remember, the first personal computer was this, looked like this, right? The Apple I was a plywood circuit board from the Homebrew Computing Club, Jobs and Wozniak. And so we know that bottoms-up revolutions can change the world with a personal computer. Next was the web. Remember GeoCities? Didn't look very promising, didn't look like a cultural revolution, and yet here we are. So I think the fact that we've done it once with the PC and again with the web suggests that there's something real going on here. That sort of mass amateurism is an industrial force, because out of it, basically, it's the most innovative model there is. There will be, YouTube is full of crap, but it is also full of amazing stuff that ultimately will influence Hollywood. You can waste a lot of bandwidth in the process of exploring the potential of what culture can be. And this now applies to physical stuff. Now, how big can it get? Well, I quit my job to take my, my maker movement hobby and turn it into an aerospace company. So in 3 years, we went from making, playing with Lego with my children to we make drones. We make more drones every year than the entire U.S. military.
So talk a little bit about that. I mean, here you are, you make drones, you start with some toys. What are the kind of applications that you saw opening up that you wouldn't have expected that could be maybe a forerunner to something that the maker revolution might?
You mean in drones?
Yeah, in drones, yeah.
Like many people in the technology industry, we didn't say, oh, there's this application that we want to serve, so let's just create a drone. We created a drone because we could create a drone. I mean, literally, my first one was Lego Mindstorms Robotics in a toy airplane with my children. That's not the way we do it today, but the point is we built a drone because we could. We then sold, made it easier and better and cheaper, and then we put it out there, and people started doing things that we never expected. One thing we have, if you go to the Bay, today you can see windsurfers with drones following them with a GoPro camera, just keeping, it's called the Follow Me device, and it just sort of, you've got your personal camera droid. I don't think Boeing was going to bring you a personal camera droid, but my community did. Agriculture turns out to be one of the huge applications. Agriculture is a big data problem without the big data. Why don't farmers know what's going on in the crops? Because it's too big. How are they, are they going to scatter sensors everywhere? Probably not. But a drone as a kind of a daily crop survey gives them the big data that allows them to use less chemicals, better crop management. Hollywood's using drones a lot, and as kind of infinite camera boom. I mean, if you could say, I'd like the camera to fly out there, swing around, zoom in, and then hover right there. I don't know how to do that today. You can get a very expensive helicopter which spins whirling blades of death right next to your head for God knows how many dollars per hour, or you can just sort of draw an arc on an iPad and tell the drone to just do it. These are things that, again, were not going to come from the aerospace industry, but our community is doing it every day.
Well, I got one of your drones and I had it hover and follow me for this walk, but I can't say I saw that be $1 billion industry. And I guess, the thing that I'm trying to understand is, where do these opportunities lie? And then what are the pitfalls? I mean, we saw this recent news about, the gun printing, and the regulatory frameworks are far behind. And you look at all of these things that could go right and could go wrong. And I'm just wondering, I mean, is this Chris Anderson one more concept, or is this actually, takes off and does well?
Well, again, we have the 20 years of experience with the web to give us confidence. The maker movement is 5 years old. We have billion-dollar companies, Kickstarter, Etsy, and others. Even MakerBot, which 3 years ago looked like this, is now a $500 million company. You can get 3D printers in Staples right now. So I think we've got enough experience now that suggests this is not a hallucination. We're starting to see companies like GE using this same model. GE is a huge embracer of the maker movement for two reasons. One is Thomas Edison was a maker, right? They know amazing companies can be made in a garage. And secondly, they see this as the way to bring manufacturing back to America. It's not going to be with tax subsidies and trade barriers. It's going to be with inspiring a new generation of manufacturers. We're not going to build factories the way we did in the 70s. Those jobs aren't coming back. But if you take the Silicon Valley entrepreneurial model and apply it to stuff, to physical stuff, then maybe the jobs, maybe manufacturing will come back, or more to the point, innovative manufacturing. So GE says that, you know, if they can get those 3D printers into schools, if they can train a generation to know that anything they can imagine they can make real, then we will be the vibrant manufacturing economy we once were.
So, you know, 2 data points. I have a daughter who's in elementary school, and her school trip was to Maker Faire.
Sweet.
And that was amazing that, you know, it is now viewed as being something that people look forward to. And at the same time, if you look at the concerns that people have around the guns, you kind of feel like this is an industry that could go in either direction. But it's unclear to me whether Silicon Valley wins or whether the United States wins. So Tesla's become a major car producer in the Valley. It's yet to become a major car producer in the world. And a lot of people might argue that 3D printing results in the fact that designs are cheaply available anywhere. Anybody can buy one of these machines, and there's no reason why China or Indonesia could not be just as competitive as the United States. But just to finish that thought, you know, if I look at the big companies, I mean, I put on my big company hat, and if somebody came to me and said, I want to build something because I can, I have no idea what the application will be, but I would still like to go ahead and do it, you'd be, nah. So you look at that and you say, I can see why manufacturing in the Valley may go through an amazing renaissance. You know, persuade us that it actually is something that affects the economy at large.
Yeah, I mean, so that is the big question. You know, for it to affect the economy at large, you know, all that mass amateurism is going to also have to result in mass entrepreneurship. And those new companies have to be able to do something the old companies couldn't. They have to be faster, more nimble. I mean, you need more pebbles. You know, the kind of companies that can outcompete the giants of the past. Now, whether the United States is going to preferentially win, I have no idea. I actually don't care. I mean, I'm fundamentally agnostic. My company is half Mexican, or we have operations in Tijuana. My community is global. I'm completely agnostic as to where this revolution happens. What I want to see is the innovation. I want to see the new products. I want to see the new companies. I want to see the new business models. I would be delighted if it turns out that China or India embraces this and can transform their own economy. I wouldn't be surprised if China in particular does embrace this. But what's interesting about it is not driven by labor arbitrage anymore. You know, why don't we make, I mean, America is the largest manufacturer in the world still, so let's not pretend that we've lost manufacturing, but we've lost a lot of jobs. Why? Labor arbitrage, because manufacturing was essentially a manual task. This is digital manufacturing. The nice thing about digital manufacturing is that everybody buys robots for the same price. So this levels the playing field. And what this allows you to do is not make things where the labor's the cheapest, it's make things closest to market. This is a short supply chain technology. And if the consumer's in the United States, and you can now make things in the United States because it's robotic, because it's digital, because it's, you know, distributed, then you bring manufacturing back because it's the fastest, nimblest, most sort of, you know, in-market way to do it.
So that's really inspirational. You know, if you think about the fact that manufacturing could go through a similar entrepreneurial renaissance, and you have really sort of put your money where your mouth is, you've actually followed this and become the CEO of one of the companies in the space on the 3D robotics. Any closing comments, any suggestions, thoughts to all the budding entrepreneurs out there?
Just do it. First of all, if you have kids, get a 3D printer this year. Now it's ready. They're easy to use. They cost like $1,000. You can buy one in Staples, the Cube 3D Systems. I'm not in this business. I'm not selling any product. I'm just saying, as a father, it's transformative. Just do it. If you don't want to buy a 3D printer, download one of those apps I told you about, you know, 123D Design, 123D Catch, and just upload the design to Shapeways, which is a service, and have it printed for you. And that 10 days later, you'll get it in like stainless steel. If that doesn't blow your mind, you know, you're a tougher man than me. And then finally, if the ability to start companies out of this has never been easier. Between crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter, which means you don't need venture capital, to cloud manufacturing, which means you don't need a factory, to if you do want to create a factory, all those tools can be done, can be bought cheaply. My team a bunch of 19, 20-year-old kids from Tijuana built a world-class electronics factory in 3 years by buying stuff on eBay, downloading manuals from Google, using open source ERP software. They just did it. So I know it's a cliche, but just do it.
So it sounds like you took a business from your children's concept to your reality.
Yes.
Great.
The maker movement is all about industrializing hobbies. And the hobby is the fun part, but the industrialization is how we move the needle for the economy.
So you also run a blog called Geek Dad. What's the latest recommendations you have for all the geek dads out there?
I started a blog, a website now called Geek Dad, which was specifically about finding great things, great sort of inspirational projects to do with your kids about science and technology. The reality is, my kids wanted nothing to do with it. They're like, not only would they not go to the site, but now when I do projects with them, they accuse me of doing it for Geek Dad. And like when I bring a camera and they're out, it's like, Dad, is that going on the internet? So the fact, by the way, that I just showed Toby's robot, he'll be completely furious. So Geek Dad's a great site. Unfortunately, my kids are still not into science and technology, but someday.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for sharing your insights and for taking it from concept to reality.